backed up too much, so the rear end, it fell into a ditch, and I was just sitting there, fuck, and I put it into first gear and tried to like press down the speeder to get it up, and it wouldn't get up, and I was sitting there just having an enormous crisis, and Noah, he got out and went to my side and just like hugged me and said, okay, we're gonna figure this out, we're not dying, like, no, things could be worse. And we've had like similar experience where we had like, the car wouldn't start and you're stuck in some forest and you're just sitting there waiting for, and people don't speak English, so people can't really help you, and you're just like, fuck, like, I don't want to be here right now, and you're just eating some snack, and also just feeling like an imposter adult. Like, so many times I've been like, we leave Denmark, I'm like, yeah, we're adulting, we can do this, and then you're like, suddenly the car won't start, and you just feel like a child, like you're calling your father and be like, the car won't start, and you're like, why did I ever go here? Like, who told me I was capable of doing this?
Welcome back to the Post Definitions podcast. I'm your host, Freddie Lancha, and today we have very special guests.
I'm Noah, and I'm 22 years old from Copenhagen.
And my name is Anna, and I'm 21 and also from Copenhagen. And we've been traveling together for 1 year in our van.
Wow. So we met in Istanbul. We're in a cafe, and as the travel life goes, where it's pretty chaotic, there's like an event happening here in 20 minutes, and but that doesn't stop us from like meeting people and having cool conversations and all of this. And so the topic is identity, and I'm mostly curious about how you guys carry your identity with you as you travel. So as Danish people, you already mentioned that you learned a little bit more about what it means to be Danish and things like this as you travel, but also just maybe let's start with that. What is it like to travel as Danish people in the world?
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think Danish people are more like inward people, and I think that's something that's shocked us, is like how many people just very bluntly interact with you or want to be like part of your life, or your like many times when we've had issues, people are very eager to help in an almost stressful way, but you have to learn how to appreciate that kind of love and caring about you, but it can feel very hectic. And I think as Danes, we're just used to people just not really interacting with each other in those ways and being so bluntly extroverted. What do you think?
Yeah, I think actually for us, like the Danish or national identity hasn't been a big thing, or like it hasn't had a big impact on us before, although it's of course part of who you are. But I think meeting all kinds of different people are also changing who you are. So I'd say like we've changed a lot since we left Denmark. Probably just because we've met so many people from different cultures who are approaching us and we're approaching them, and you kind of pick up different personalities and make it your own, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think that's like just what it's like to travel and meet new people? Like, even if you were to travel in Denmark, maybe you would also change your personality? Or is it particularly like you're picking up different cultures and perspectives?
Yeah, I think actually a novelty makes a difference. And since the Danish culture is, we're accustomed to it, I don't think we'd be as, maybe when we return, we'd be more curious. But I think before, I wouldn't be as curious about other people and like small differences in families and friends who's outside my bubbles. How do you feel about that, Anna?
Yeah, that's a really good question. But I think, for sure, I agree with what you said, that we would resemble people that we meet more, and it wouldn't be as changing. But I guess, I don't know, I think we also, back in Denmark, we're in a Copenhagen bubble because we're Copenhageners, so for sure it would be a very different experience to go to the Danish countryside, where I think people think very differently than we do, or have different opinions about politics. But I think maybe opinions or lifestyles would be but different the most, but I still have a feeling that there are some aspects that are, for example, one thing that I've noticed in Greece and in Turkey in particular is another kind of like giving or generosity, where like for example in Greece there was this lady who hosted us for free in her home, and she bought us coffee every morning and toast, and she was just so incredibly kind. And I think a lot of this like giving and generosity in the beginning of our trip, it was almost hard for us to accept, because we had a feeling, do we have to like reciprocate it in any way or give back, or do we owe you something? And we had to kind of understand that people don't want anything in return. They just want to like give you things because it makes them happy, or they want to help you. And I don't know, maybe Danish people could, I mean, for sure, I think Danish people could be like that as well, but I think it makes a huge difference to not be in your own country also. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like, I talked to someone who was from Canada, and they went to the US, and they're like, Americans are so much more giving, or something like this. And then I think I heard an American say the same thing about Canada, maybe because it's just away from their home. But I don't know how much comes from actually just being the foreigner or traveling in a different place. But yeah, I think you're right. I also have that about like accepting gifts. Yeah, like from Turkish people and so on.
Yeah. But no, that's a good point. Like, so some people just want to, because you seem helpless, or there's a language barrier, or that could be an effect as well. Like we were talking with a Turkish girl the other day, and she told us like, oh, you think Turkish people are so cute, but like as a local person, we don't perceive things that, or like you will always have this like tourist lens on how you perceive the people in the culture, and it will always be more cute or welcoming maybe than local people perceive it, I guess.
Do you guys have examples of how you've changed?
Yeah, I think generally I've become a more outward going person, and I think also you kind of have to be when you're traveling for so long, because otherwise it will be kind of lonely, I think. And we definitely also experienced that loneliness. I think after maybe 3 months or so, we hadn't been so good at reaching out to people and just like hanging out for no reason at all. And I think that's also part of why I've changed a lot, because you just get more inputs from different people, and not just the people who are already or naturally around you and your circles.
Yeah, maybe you also can't even assume what people are thinking anymore, so you actually have to ask.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know, maybe even the people around you in Copenhagen, maybe they don't even all think the same. I don't know. That's also been my experience.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's sometimes you can actually go deeper with people when there's, for example, a language barrier. And we've been with a lot of people from like maybe older people who don't speak English, and we don't speak their language. And we've connected like, I'd say quite a lot with them anyways, because you can like communicate without speaking as well. And that can say something different about a person.
What does that look like, to communicate without speaking?
Well, we had this one experience in Bosnia, and we're trying to find a place to park for the night outside Sarajevo, and we felt like some places were not so nice, and there were like lots of shattered glass and bottles, so we didn't feel comfortable with it. So we drove to a house which still had the lights on, and we met this family who allowed us to just park there. And like it was quite confusing in the beginning. We thought actually they wanted us to leave or like not stay there, but what they really wanted to say was that tomorrow we should come for coffee as well, and we should come there at 7 o'clock. So we had coffee with them the day after, and we had some like salty breads and stuff, and we were just drawing together actually, and drawing like how do we make the coffee and in Denmark, and how do they make the coffee there. And we also had a phone call with like the grandfather's son who spoke a little English, so he could. I
had that experience too.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. Like you can always find someone who can translate a little bit during conversations. But yeah, I think that was one of the first experiences we had where we weren't able to talk at all with the person in the beginning. Yeah.
No, that's very cool.
Yeah. I think also another thing I thought about when you ask how we changed. I think prior to traveling, I was a very controlling person. I loved to have my calendar and have like everything neatly lined up about my week and my month. I thought this was very satisfying. And when we left, I mean, for sure, I knew when you're gonna van life for a year, you can't have a calendar. But I still had this vision that like, okay, we'll get up and at like 7 o'clock every morning, we'll do yoga and we'll have this routine and we'll um, hit the time slots. And I don't know. It's not like I had the vision for a grander plan, but I think I've really let go of any form of trying to control your life or make things happen in the way you plan them to do. And I don't know. I've been wondering if this is a trait I'm gonna carry into because I'm gonna start studying, whether I'm gonna be able to carry this into my new life in the city and with more schedules, this kind of philosophy, or if I'm just gonna fall. I don't know if any of you guys relate to this, like gaining experiences while you're traveling, but thinking whether you're gonna still like retain this philosophy or experience when you come home, or just gonna fall back into what you were before.
What do you think is going to happen? Are you going to be the same
Well,
when you come back?
I think it can be very easy to slip into old patterns for sure if you go back to the same places, and I have dreaded that as well because I like the person I've become, and it's not like I don't like the person I was, but I think I will definitely I will move back to Copenhagen again, and I don't think I will I don't think I could go back to exactly the same life as I had before because it's been so long and I've changed a lot. So I think there's definitely like practical or more structural things that I will change from before, which I hope will allow me to be more the person I am now than the person I was before we left.
And do you think you will be like happier if you can figure out how to continue not planning so much and letting go a little bit? Or like, what's the benefit? Like, if you were to go back to what you were, you would be less happy or less even productive or less alive or just less yourself? Or
I think I believe a lot in like taking reflected choices. So what I hope to do is not say I can't plan my life anymore, because I think that also, like you said, made me more productive, and I really enjoy planning my life when this makes sense. But what I hope is that the insight I've gained while traveling will allow me to kind of choose more depending on the situation, because I think it became kind of like chronic before, that everything had to be planned, and also like my appointments with friends. And I think what I've learned is that some things really make sense to plan if you want to have a busy week, and this is not necessarily bad, or like I could feel really good after having a super productive week, but it could also feel like very critical or stressful when something didn't go according to plan. And I hope to kind of be able to combine these skills or life philosophies, which I feel is one of the hardest things in life, to not do either one thing or the other thing, but actually be able to say, okay, I can be a very rigid planner and be super productive, but also try to, I don't know, accept that life is random sometimes, or it doesn't go according to the plan, and kind of implement both ways of living. Because I don't know, I think it would make me happy if I could be just less stressed or more accepting of just what happens. I mean, I think fundamentally just acceptance to life makes you feel better.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about how now you are travelers, and when you arrive in a place, you are like the people who have traveled for a year and are out of your van? It's like really taking up a lot of your identity. What does that feel like to you? And do you feel like you embody that, or you feel like you're like unfairly just judged as travelers, and maybe people miss another part of you? And then when you go also back to Copenhagen, when you're not travelers anymore, how will that be?
I feel like for sure it's part of our identity. It's really fun because the other night we were at a bar and meeting people, and we talked about so many times when you meet someone and naturally you start talking about why you're here, and are you on Erasmus, like what's your life situation, and you're like, okay, I've been traveling for a year, and we've like had this how do you say, I feel like I've said the same thing so many times to so many people, and we talked about we want to find like more creative ways of talking to people, because we're also kind of tired of this, like, okay, you find out we've been traveling for a year and we saw you where we've been, and like it's kind of the same routine, and that could be hard to break out of, because it's also an easy way to start a conversation, but also you feel like you're repeating the same monologue like for the 100th time. Yeah, how about you, Noah?
Well, I feel like I actually craved that feeling a lot before and in the beginning of the trip, because I felt like it was the first big thing I was going to do. And before that, I had, of course, done...
What feeling did you crave?
Like the feeling of being able to say that we have done this. Like it's like I kind of wanted that identity, and I thought it would take up more space inside of me actually. But I feel like now it's more like it's just who we are, I guess. It's part of what we've experienced. But before it felt like this, can you say milestone? Yeah, milestone to just leave Denmark and do something big on your own for the first time. And I think it made me feel like I had kind of accomplished something. But I don't think that's what I carry with me when we talk about it, actually. It's just like more practical matters that we've been traveling these places. But what's really stuck inside me is it's like the experiences with the man we had coffee with I talked about before, and people we've met, and like things we've done which we maybe wouldn't be motivated to do if we were just in the same area that we was before.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Maybe if you talk to someone who's never traveled, they'd be like, so you had coffee in the morning.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why would you want to do that? Some people are like that, you know?
Yeah.
But,
it can be uncomfortable as well to do those. Like, it's easy to have coffee with someone, but if you don't speak the same language, already there, you're outside of your comfort zone.
yeah.
And I think that's like, that happens a lot when you travel. And I think that makes me grow into like a different person as well.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. Basically, you like kind of followed your desire for success, or like ego driven, like, you know, achievement based stuff, like very much inside of me as an American, and maybe in your culture too. But you actually found that the fact that you did it didn't really matter. It's just the experiences and actually the enjoyment you get out of life that mattered.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's just like basically the pleasure you get from small things. When we've been living in the van for like several months and not had a warm shower, and we got to an Airbnb, which we could stay there for a night in Greece, and we had the first warm shower. That was like the best feeling ever. And when you have that every day, you don't appreciate it the same. So I think we also like talk a lot about those very small things, like the coffee in the morning, and like just the taste of it and the feeling of sitting there. I think that's what's changed the most, and not like the accomplishment of traveling or doing something.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Also, another thing I'm thinking about is something that shaped my experience this year the most is the challenges we faced. And it always sucks when you're in this situation, but I think it's also one of the most important parts of traveling is like these crises you've had. Like one time I was like turning the car, and can you say backed it? Yeah, backed up too much, so the rear end, it fell into a ditch, and I was just sitting there like, fuck, and I put it into first gear and tried to like press down the speeder to get it up, and it wouldn't get up, and I was sitting there just having an enormous crisis. And Noah, he got out and went to my side and just like hugged me and said, okay, we're gonna figure this out, we're not dying, like, no, things could be worse. And we've had like similar experience where we had like, you know, the car wouldn't start and you're stuck in some forest and you're just sitting there waiting for, and you know, people don't speak English, so people can't really help you, and you're just like, fuck, like I don't want to be here right now, and you're just eating some snack, and also just feeling like an imposter adult. Like so many times I've been like, we leave Denmark, I'm like, yeah, we're adulting, we can do this, and then you're like suddenly the car won't start, and you just feel like a child, like you're calling your father and be like, the car won't start, and you're like, why did I ever go here? Like, who told me I was capable of doing this? But I feel like these experiences have been so important and so sucky when we are in them, but I really appreciate that, and just kind of also learning to, like, I think instinctively you always want to call someone, like someone who can just come and help you and fix your problem, but that's not always possible. And then you find out like you can't really call someone, so you kind of just have to look at it. Like you have to open the hood and look at the car, or you have to figure out like what are you gonna do. And I think that's shaped me a lot. Yeah.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
I think we have to call it for now, because there's an event starting here. And they were nice enough to Dino Cafe in Istanbul was nice enough to host our podcast. And maybe we're going to continue in later. So yeah, thanks so much for so far. And maybe we see more.